Is quality worth the price? There is no substitute for excellence. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Dad. This is episode number 10. This is kind of a bonus edition. We were planning on wrapping up with 3 videos tonight, and we're having such a good time that we thought we would make a fourth one. And so tonight, we're going to talk about the debate between buying quality or getting something cheap. And sometimes you want to really focus on quality, and sometimes you just want to do something good enough. And how do you tell the difference? And
Well, and
my
the cost per use would be something to bring up too.
Yeah, yeah. And my dad has a kind of a family motto where for years he was always telling us there is no substitute for excellence. So I kind of worked that into the title, and we'll talk about that as well. So, Dad, why don't you get us started by talking about cost per use? Because you're the economist in the room.
Actually, with a PhD in economics, um, a lot of people go out and they look only at price, and they never consider quality. And you really have to look at something and say, how much value am I going to get out of it? You'd earlier given an example. You were going to pour some concrete in the backyard for your uh, concrete below your patio, and you went out
No,
and
it
got
was
some
for it
cheap
was for this
boots.
building that I'm in. I was pouring the concrete for this workshop, and
Okay, so
yeah.
anyway, you went for bottom end and didn't want to spend much.
Well,
On the
on
other
the on the
hand,
on the boots. So what happened was
yeah,
so we're going to be pouring the concrete, and any boots that I was wearing was just going to get destroyed. And so I went to Walmart. I got these, or maybe it was Home Depot. I just got these like $10 rubber boots that I was going to be wearing because I was only going to be using them once, and I knew they were going to get ruined. Uh, they actually survived, but I never used them since. So they're just $10 boots. But on the other hand, when I was hiking Philmont, I got really good boots because I wanted to be able to use them over and over again. And I ended up using those boots for not only Philmont in high school, but all through college and a little bit afterwards. I got several Philmont trips out of them. So,
so bottom line is you have to evaluate, any given situation. You look at price, but you look at it in consideration of, is it going to be functional? Is it going to serve my needs? Is it going to be durable? Some things improve with time. I love products that improve with time. Um, when I was 14 years old or 16 or something, I bought a Swiss Army knife, and wasn't the cheapest knife you could buy, but I got at least 50 years of use out of it. Um, you have families where silverware used to be made out of silver or silver plated because silver had a certain antimicrobial quality to it. Now we have a lot of stainless steel flatware and so forth. But in families that were elegant and had lots of money, uh, the silver would start out, and the more you used it generation after generation, it would develop a patina of little scratches on it. It would have a more beautiful look after having a generation or two of use than it did initially. So something that serves you well or even improves over time is a really nice thing to have.
yeah. Well, and when I'm doing some consulting with people on like let's say I'm selling somebody a computer, and they're trying to decide if they want to get something just really cheap, or if they want to get something good. And I'll break it down to how much per year you wanting to spend on your equipment. And there was a we built a server once for the Oklahoma horseshoeing school down in Purcell, and we built the server for them in 2003. And to my knowledge, it's still running. It's not their primary server now; it's a backup server they're using to just keep a backup of their data. And we built it really nice using quality components. It wasn't the most powerful, but it was super high reliability stuff because they just didn't want to screw with it again. They wanted it to work and never have to worry about it. And they were hosting their QuickBooks and saving their data on it. And the thing just lasted. And eventually, what happened was the newer version of QuickBooks required more power than what would run on this old server. And so they used it instead. We switched over to being a backup to keeping a backup copy of their data. And because we built it with quality, it still works after all this time. And so their cost per use, or their cost per year on it, was relatively low.
You're talking a decade and a half of use at least.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Whereas a lot of times people go to Walmart and buy these $300 Walmart special laptops, and maybe they last a year and fall apart, and that ends up costing them a lot more than spending $1,000 on a laptop that lasts 5 years. So there's definitely some math involved there, and where I've always made the decision, because certainly with running a business, you have to really watch your money and decide what are we going to do. So when you're making a decision, like with my business, we get a lot of our office chairs and furniture. We'll go to Habitat for Humanity because we can get something cheap, but we can get something that's used that's a higher quality for like $5 a chair, let's say. My favorite office chair. I should bring it here to the house, but I don't want. But I really like it at the office. I bought it from an OU surplus sale. It's an old chair from the 1960s. It's made out of steel, and it's super durable, and it works great. I had to replace the wheels on them. I put these rollerblade wheels on them that cost me like $40 for the wheels for a $5 chair. But still, a $45 chair is less than what you would spend on one of these on a brand new office chair that might run a couple $100. And the thing is fantastic, right? So if you can find the good values, it's worth it. But stuff that's built right, stuff that's just really built with quality, that'll last a long time is totally worth it. Uh, on the other hand, sometimes we have these folding tables for just projects. If we just need something quick for a project, if we're going out in the field and we're building something or doing something, we just need something we can fold up, and maybe it'll get destroyed and maybe it won't. Just a cheap folding table or something is a lot better than like Granddad's antique oak table that I have here at the house. So
Your grandfather in the 1930s bought that table. He had a degree in engineering from the University of Kansas, and he wanted a table that was going to last generations. And it looks like it's going to last at least 3 to 5 generations.
yeah, yeah, no, it's still doing great for me, and it'll probably do great years to come. I have a mat covering it to make sure it stays protected. So the and so like if you're just gonna be bumming around the house, a lot of times I just wear a t-shirt and gym shorts because it's not worth spending a lot of money, especially if nobody's gonna see you. And this way I can save I can save my Armani for if I have to actually walk into a business meeting, which that of course doesn't happen anymore, which actually isn't bad. I don't mind not having to dress nice, but so I think in your life a lot of success is knowing when do you spend the money on the quality and when do you just get the paper cup for the party that you don't worry about using a
Now,
second time.
sometimes products, try to look like they're high quality when they really aren't. They try and attach a feeling that it's excellent. Uh, Also, you go in a lower end store and everything looks good compared to everything else, but it's all lower end merchandise. And
Yeah.
sometimes you go into an upper end store and there might be something that's priced very attractively among upper end merchandise where it's good quality, but maybe it's a sale item or didn't fit somebody or it was a return or whatever. You really have to look at each individual item very carefully and judge, the durability, the suitability, and so forth.
Well, and a lot of times products nowadays are designed to fail as well, and which I always thought was interesting, where they'll have built obsolescence into the item, so you have to keep buying over and over and over again. And so it's hard to. I think it's kind of hard to figure out where you're gonna whether you're getting something that's good or not. But I've got an old GE microwave from that I had in college, and that thing is old, and it still works fine. And that's the microwave I use here in my workshop. It's kind of small, so I've got a bigger one in the kitchen, and I've probably gone through 6 microwaves in the kitchen, 5 microwaves in the kitchen over the time that I've had this little tiny GE microwave from college, just because it was built really really well. Or
Well, there's a product cycling in corporations. They start out with a high quality product, and then somebody comes on with a hotshot degree of MBA from some fancy university and says, if we cut a few corners, nobody will notice. Then the next product cycle, well, we'll cut a few more corners and nobody will notice. And of course, he increases profitability even though they're turning out crappy products. And then he hops from company to company and he says, look, I increased profitability here, and then I went to that company and increased profit. But you leave a trail of products that are headed downhill in terms of lesser and lesser quality.
Yeah, I've run into that problem with some of the vests that I'm making. Those new ballistic vests that I'm making. I'm sorry, weighted exercise vests. Let's be more PC friendly here. And so in making a vest that would stop, a tremendous amount of damage and protect and be good for a very long time, it's really expensive to make. And you see these cheap things advertised on the internet for a couple $100, and maybe they'll stop maybe they'll stop some damage, and maybe they won't. And you never quite know. Certainly, a lot of these cheap Chinese products, that don't necessarily live up to what they're claiming. But even still, uh,
And there are a lot of
you don't
people where
know, right?
price is the only thing. They're gonna
Right.
get that item for $199 rather than spend twice that for something that's 10 times better.
Right, and from my perspective, if it's something where like a life is at risk, right, or something's going to keep me safe, I'm willing to spend top dollar just so I know and trust, hey, this thing's going to be awesome. If it's something that's not so essential, uh, we need a shovel to break the ice out in front of the store, or a broom to sweep up. Uh, just any old thing will,
Adequate's
yeah,
sufficient.
adequate will be fine. And one of the big things that you have to watch out for is you don't want to be perfect at everything and never have any time or money left over for all the other stuff you need. So you have to know when does it have to be perfect, when does it have to be good, and when does it have to be just good enough. And I think if you can master that balance, if somebody's life is at stake, it's got to be damn perfect. If it's inconsequential, then just get it done good enough, and don't worry about it. And then if it's going to be something that needs to
What's
be,
the phrase? Don't let perfection or don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
yeah, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, or something like that. And knowing when you have to do it perfect and when it has to just be done good enough. Uh, on my deck that I built, for example, it had to be good because it's going to be a deck. It's going to be holding weight and whatnot. And but if the boards didn't quite, it had to be structurally perfect, but cosmetically, if a board was a little bit, if the decking on top was maybe a little bit uneven or not quite exactly perfect, some of the boards would be, wood's intrinsically a little bit warped sometimes. That's not a big deal as long as it's structurally perfect. Cosmetically, it has to be, good, but you need to know what are the crucial things that have to be perfect, and what's the crucial things that have to be, good enough. You want
Well,
structurally perfect because you
there's
don't want it to
there's
fall
a
on
there's a
somebody.
diminishing result as you go closer and closer to perfection. It gets much more costly in terms of
Right.
time and effort and money.
Well, and how you get around some of that also is, so like in architecture, when I was studying architecture, they would teach us to overbuild things by about 10 or 20%. So most buildings that you're sitting in, if they're designed to resist a certain amount of wind or designed to resist a certain amount of weight, they're actually overbuilt by like 20%. And that way, if the construction's not perfect, it's still well stronger than tolerance, just so you don't have to worry about it. And so that raises a good point. When you're designing something, or when you're gonna do something, if you bake into the cake that there's gonna be imperfections, and you account for that, and so you overbuild or you overprepare, or you uh are you know you do a little bit more than is necessary because you know that something is going to go wrong, then that gives you the insurance, that gives you the insulation against there being future problems.
Well, and
And
you buy products that are a little bit over-engineered for what you're trying to use
right,
them for.
exactly. Well, like that bike that I've had since I was in high school. That bike was a really strong bike. It wasn't some cheap I think I spent like $1,000 on that bike back in back in high school, which was a lot of money back then. I worked all summer for that bike, and when I was picking out a bike, I told the people at the bike store I wanted something that's going to be as durable as possible. I wasn't going to be racing on it. I was using it to rehabilitate my knees from some injuries, and so I just needed to be really really durable because I didn't want to ever have to buy another bike. And I've had that bike since childhood, or since high school, and it's been great, and it's still great. And then of course you have to maintain it and take care of your things as well. Um, well, and your body's the same. You're the same way. You're always talking about health and nutrition and whatnot. And I found that if I buy quality food, I'm just overall healthier. And even if I'm buying the same stuff, buy the quality meats and the quality vegetables. Don't go for the crappy packaged stuff. And
with
and
with
that
a 27 or 35 ingredient list that you
Yeah,
can't pronounce
exactly,
what the ingredients are.
exactly. And so
And these are the foods are your building blocks for your body. You don't want to put crappy construction into your body.
well, and what's interesting is if I'm eating quality food, I don't need to eat as much of it, and then it doesn't actually cost that much more than eating garbage.
And you won't have the medical costs on the back end.
Yeah, no kidding. So, um, so really, this also kind of ties into a little bit of what's the saying? A stitch in time saves nine. A little bit of preparation beforehand saves a big headache. And that's sort of in the same topic of quality and excellence. And that if
Well, and you want to take good care of things, anything that's worthwhile, maintain it, make repairs. Like you say, a stitch in time saves nine. Something needs some repair. You don't wait till the thing's totally failed. If you can do a little something in the meantime, keep it out of the rain, protect it from, well, for instance, I'm speaking on my iPhone that's about 2.5 years old. But the first thing I did was ordered a special, almost military grade case to put it in. It has a lip around the case. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to drop your phone. And if the phone's been dropped randomly by accident a number of times, it's never cracked the screen. Just thinking ahead on how do you protect a good product, is worthwhile.
Actually, funny you should say that. I don't remember who was saying. There's somebody on the internet was saying that the iPhones are designed to break because if Apple didn't want their phones to break, they'd build the protective case as part of the
Good point.
package. And so a lot of these phones they're made to break because they don't come with the case, and then they can charge you extra for the case. Um,
It'd be easy enough to build a durable, but people want the slick, slim sort of phone as opposed to the clunkier look of having a durable case.
yeah. Um, and then speaking of maintaining things, that car that Granddad gave me for college, that he died when I was too young to drive, and my grandmother was holding on to it for me, and he'd said that I'd get the car the first time I had straight A's in college, and so I worked really hard to do that. So I got that my first year in college. But that car, I took really good care of it because there's no way I was going to be able to afford a car, not with my budget in college. So I took really, really good care of it, and I maintained it, and I babied that thing. And would you believe I got just shy of 500,000 miles out of that car?
And two engines.
Yeah, two. I had to put a second engine into it, but and then but my SUV, the one that I love, I bought the SUV is on. They had it mispriced, and so I got a nearly brand new Mitsubishi Montero back in 2003 Montero. It had what 10,000
So
miles
you're
on it.
talking 17 or 18 years
Yeah,
old now.
yeah, yeah. So the dealership made a mistake on the price. They had it listed for 12,000 instead of 22,000, and so I bought it, and I've taken really really great care of that, and I've gotten 208,000 miles on that thing, and I just put in, some repair work, and we had the engine reworked a little bit, and a few $1,000s in preventative maintenance, and just rebuilding the car. I bet I'll get another 200,000 miles out of that thing, and that's a lot cheaper than having to ever buy another car. That's one of the company vehicles. I'd bought that
And
for the.
your tags and taxes and all that are going to be lower on an older vehicle,
Oh yeah, yeah, no,
insurance and
yeah.
so forth.
Tagging it is nothing, and so I have that for that was my That was my one of the early company vehicles I bought, and just taking good care of stuff and buying buying quality. I knew that those things were designed to last a really long time, and so it helps. So I think that where a lot of people get in trouble, certainly financially, is just through waste. Um, they if you're wasting a lot, you're gonna have money problems. You're gonna clutter up your life or garbage things up, and so you need to find that efficiency. And so really, you're either buying something that's a one-use disposable item, or a one or two-use disposable item, or you're getting something that's quality
And it
that
takes a lot of evaluating to find, to determine what's really quality. Uh, Companies do all they can to deceive you and make you think that a crappy product is really a good product.
yeah. Well, and sometimes a good example of getting something, cheap and crappy, every now and then, maybe once every couple of months we have to drill a screw out of a laptop at work. And it doesn't it's a very light use. It doesn't happen very often, and I just assume that the guys are going to lose the thing anyway. And so instead of letting them borrow my high-end drills, I just bought a cheap, $40 power, corded power drill for the store, and I let them, and if they destroy the thing, I don't care because it's a cheap drill, and they only use it maybe once every couple of months anyway. So it's just something there to be easy and convenient, and so that's not worth putting a lot of effort into. But the drill that I use, on a regular basis for my own projects, I've got this, kind of higher end, rigid hammer drill that is great for heavier duty things, and I don't let anybody borrow that because I spent a couple $100 on it. So it's a knowing when to buy. It just comes down to figuring out when to buy the quality and when to buy the disposable. And if you can get that process down, that's going to make your life a lot more efficient, and that's going to be another step towards success. So, or that North Face jacket that I've had for since
Probably
probably
20 years.
yeah, probably 20 years. I've probably had that jacket, and it's still great. So that's the big takeaway for today. I don't know if there's anything. Yeah, I got something in my eye for some reason. Uh, is there anything else you wanna add to this?
Well, there's no substitute for excellence. It's a constant striving to become the best person you can be. Um, that's a reward in itself, just to try and have the character and nature of being a really good person.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to understand that excellence does not mean perfect. Excellence means you're going to be excellent at things, but you're going to have that proper balance in knowing when you have to really put in the effort and when what are you going to focus on and where the important, or at least I see excellence as knowing what's the important thing that you have to take care of, because there's always too much going on in life for you to handle everything. And
The,
so,
the result is excellence. The result is a
right,
good result.
yeah, exactly. So getting excellent results. So, uh, I wasn't planning on doing the fourth video, but we were having such a good time that we thought we would do it. And I hope people like
We'll
this
see you
kind of
next time.
content. Yeah, we'll see you next time. I hope you like this kind of content. If you do, share it with your friends and family. Like the video, subscribe, toss in a comment. Actually, I think the YouTube algorithms are changing to favor commenting. I don't, so we'll see how that goes. But
We're
let's
not
let's
monetized, so it doesn't make any difference.
yeah,
We're
it
having a
doesn't.
good time.
Yeah, actually, I think if you're not monetized, YouTube kind of downranks because YouTube wants to make the money from the advertisements. But let's have a good time. You can check out bobtheorc.com. I'll eventually be posting some thoughts up there, and we will see you in the next video. Good night.
Good night.